Analyze our games, part 6. One more game, more mistakes, more missed opportunities. So I played black. My opponent played e4, c5, knight c3, d6, f4, knight c6, knight f6, f3, g6. It's possible to play knight f6, bishop b5, g6. It's another possibility. Didn't play this, I played g6. My opponent answered bishop c4, e6, d3, very close position, bishop g7, castles, knight g e7, getting ready to castle, bishop e3. This is already a mistake. Better is to play the bishop to b3. Why bishop e3 is a mistake? Because of the double here. I should have played d5 and then e takes d5, e takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes d5. In case of bishop taking on c5, it's bishop e6, queen, and then queen e1 and queen d7, and black's a little bit better. Yeah, but I didn't play d5. I played b6. I was worried about this pawn on c5. Then I played b6, defending it. Then bishop b5. It's also possible to play d4. It's an equal position. My opponent played bishop b5. I defended, playing bishop d7. Rook b1. Again, it's possible to play d4 and then c takes d4. We get an equal position. After rook b1, I played a6 to force my opponent to play to decide what he was thinking. Then he took my knight on c6. I took the bishop, and then knight e2. That's good because his intention is to put the knight to this place and try to attack my king. Castles. It's also possible to play f5 but I thought it was more important to castle. So castles, king h1. It's also possible knight g3 and then f5. And black is slightly better, but slightly. So after king h1, I played f5. This is a very common setup in this position. Bishop g5 is not good. Better is to play the knight to g3 and get ready for some attacks, mutual attacks. So after knight g5, I played d7, queen d7. I have to defend my pawn here on e6, and then he played knight g3, h6, forcing my opponent to move his knight. Then he played knight f3, and then I played here king h7. But better is to attack the center. e5 is better. And then we have some other moves here like queen c1. In case of white takes on f5, then I take on f4, bishop takes, knight f takes, knight takes, rook takes, and bishop g3, rook a f8. So black is a little bit better here, but nothing decisive yet. The good thing is about the attack, all my pieces are directed to f3, and it may cause something in the future. But going back there, king h7, and then my opponent played queen d2 in case of e takes f5, knight takes f5, and g takes. Then I open up this g diagonal, g column, and be able to attack my opponent on the g column, g file. Okay, so queen d2, queen b7. I was trying to attack my opponent's pawn on e4, but better than queen to b7 is to play e5 or even a5 to avoid my opponent to play b4. Okay, so after queen b7, my opponent took on f6, f5. I took with the knight, my opponent took. I took with the g pawn. So again, I was trying to move my bishop to f6 and double the rooks on the g file. That's a good plan. My opponent played c3. Better is b4, taking advantage of the fact that I can't take the pawn if he takes with the, because of the pin here. So c3, bishop f6. I was getting ready to double on the g file. Rook b e1 is a mistake. Better is b4, as I said before. Then queen g7 and rook b c1. Again, my bishop is pinned here, so I have to take care of this, but nothing is concrete yet. So after rook b e1, I played rook g8. Yeah, my idea was to double the rooks here. My opponent played bishop g1. I think it was a good idea, just taking a piece to defend his king. Then I defended my pawn on e6, and it was not a good idea. There was a better way to defend and attack at the same time by playing rook g6, and then my opponent would have to play rook e2, defending on g2. In case of taking on e6, then I have a very good attack on the g file, combined with my machine, the bishop and the queen, attacking the knight on f3. So this would be much better than defending my pawn on e6. Most of the times we defend our positions, and instead of defending, we have to learn, we have to get in the habit of attacking instead of defending. This is what makes great chess players. You have to attack. You don't have to defend. You have to defend if it's necessary, but if it isn't, you have to go for the attack. So after this, rook a g8, my opponent would play probably rook e3. Then I can sacrifice my rooks on g2. Then rook takes g2, queen takes, rook takes, king takes, and rook f7. I'm attacking the pawn. I'm threatening to put my queen on h5, and then I can get some better attack because of this pin. The bishop pinning the knight is very good. So, but nothing of this happened. I played rook a e8, defending my pawn on e6. Okay, my opponent played rook e3. Then I attacked his pawn on g4, on f4. He attacked my pawn again. I defended it again, but better is, guess what? Rook e g8. Then my opponent has to defend. Put his rook to f2, and then e5, f takes e5, d takes e5, and I have an attack here. Yeah, my position is better. I can't say that it's winning, but it's a good position for sure. But I didn't play this. I played queen f7. Then my opponent played h3, attacking my rook. I have to move. Rook g7, and then he moved his bishop. Now he is defending the g4 pawn, and there's some space for the king. Okay, b5. This is a good move. My idea when I played this b5 was to take put my bishop here to defend my pawn and get my pieces free to attack his king. It didn't work very well because I didn't follow a better plan. Better than, yeah, not better, but another possibility would be rook e g8, again attacking the king, and we have the same line I showed before, the sacrifice. It's not the sacrifice, but taking on g2 is exchanging the queen for 2 rooks, the queen and a pawn for 2 rooks. That's not a sacrifice itself. So after b5, my opponent played rook e1, and it's a mistake. Better is to play the pawn to a3. Okay, after this I played d5. As I said before, I was trying to move my bishop to defend this pawn and get ready to attack, move my queen and my 2 rooks to attack my opponent's king. But my opponent played c4, and it frustrated a little. It hindered my plan. But at the same time, this is a mistake. Oh, c4 is not a mistake. My taking on c4 is a mistake. I took here. It's a mistake. Better is to play the bishop to b7. And then in case of rook takes on e6, then I can take on f3, then g takes, and then my rook takes on e6, rook takes, queen h5 to defend the pawn on f3, and then I have this very good shot, rook e7, and then he has to take, and I take the queen, he takes with check, and then I move, and I have a better position here, and it's a winning position. Queen against pawn, against rook and bishop, it's a better position. I would have won. So I took on c4, and it's not good. Then my opponent took it, of course. C takes c4, d takes c4. Then I played bishop e4. I think it would be nice. I didn't expect my opponent to sacrifice the exchange here, but he did it. Better is to play the bishop to c6, and then bishop c6, queen d2, bishop d4, and then rook b3, and black's better. But after playing the bishop to e4, I didn't expect my opponent to exchange the sacrifice. There's another line here, but in case of, yeah, my opponent took on e4, then I took on e4, and he took with check. I was so sure that I would win by an attack that it didn't cross my mind to exchange rook, to exchange the queens there. And instead of playing my king to h8, yeah, I wanted to avoid the exchange. I thought my win would come by an attack on the king side. But better is to play the queen to g6 and propose the exchange. It's not good for my opponent to exchange, and then I have a better position. Let me check here the how much. It's slightly better. It's 1.5. It's 1 pawn and a half, so it's not that good. So, but instead of trying to exchange the queens, I played king h8, and my opponent attacked immediately. Very good. f6, f5. In case of rook e2, we get an equal position, but f5 is also good. I don't think I'm much better. It's slightly better for black, but it's an equal position. And then e5, rook d1, and bishop e7. Again, I defended my backward pawn. That's why it's bad to have backwards pawn. Backward pawns, you have to defend them. They are backward, you have to move your pieces to defend, and it's not good. Okay, the computer suggests queen b7, trying to exchange the queens, and then my opponent would not exchange the queens. According to the computer, it's an equal position. So bishop e7, equal position, and then my opponent was in a crazy mood. He sacrificed on e5. It's not correct, of course. My computer gives 2.6 for black. Better would have been rook d2, and then it's an equal position. Okay, then my opponent took on e5. I took with the pawn. My opponent took with the knight, and I played queen h5. At this moment, yeah, I'm attacking the rook. At this moment, I knew I was winning, but I also knew that I had to exchange some pieces and try to go to the ending. But I made some horrible mistakes and I couldn't do this. Okay, I think that playing queen f6 would be much easier for me, because in case of knight g6 check, rook takes, f takes, and rook d8, in case of exchanging the rooks, I go to a better ending, despite the fact that there's the queens are on the board. I have the bishop. Yeah, my bishop can go to the center of the board, attack the pawns, and maybe after exchanging or winning some pawns, I can win the ending. I don't know. I think it would be much better than what I did. So queen h5, and then my opponent played rook d7, and then it's a blunder. Not good at all. Better is to play the rook to e1, and then rook eg1, again getting control of the g file. Then in case of knight g6, I take with the rook, my opponent takes, and then bishop f6, b3 defending the pawn, and a5. I have a better position. I don't know if I can win this position, but I would be much better. My opponent played rook d7, and it's a mistake. And I remember at this point I stopped for a while. I think I thought for about 4 or 5 minutes. I don't know. I can't remember how much I spent on this, but I knew that it was a very critical moment. I knew that if I played very accurate move, if I exchanged some pieces and went to a simpler position, I could win the game. I knew I saw the check on g6, of course, and I was thinking about the best way to defend this position. I thought for a long time. I calculated bishop f6, but then I saw the check here on g6, and my rook would be unprotected. Then I thought, oh, I'm gonna move the king then. Then I played king g8, and it's horrible because my opponent get an equal position. All my advantage is over. Now it's an equal position. The best move would have been bishop f6. Then I would win the game. In case of knight f7 check, then I would take with the king and the queen, and in case my opponent takes on f7, I take on e4, my opponent takes, rook e1 check, king h2, rook e2, attacking the pawn on g2, my opponent takes the pawn and check, king g8, rook g6, I take, he takes, and I take the pawn on b2, and I have a winning position. According to Stockfish, it's 6.7, so it would be impossible to lose this position. But okay, and in case of knight g6, there's this beautiful queen maneuver that I didn't see. I didn't see the sacrifice. Yeah, it's not a sacrifice, it's trying to exchange the pieces, yeah? But I didn't see this move. Queen takes g6, and now my rook is protected, and if he takes here, I take with the king, and if he takes here on g6, I take his queen. Let's see, in case of this, I take with the king, and takes there. I have a rook and a bishop. It's a winning position. I can move the rook and take the pawns. And in case of excuse me, in case of check here, I move the queen, no problem. And if he takes with the, and I have the same position, my rook is gonna win easily, take the pawns, and this guy is gonna promote. Easy position to win. What else? And in case, of course, of this, queen c7, and there's a mate threat. Yeah, and black wins. Okay, but I didn't play this beautiful move, bishop f6. I played king h8, and then my opponent played this. Yeah, there's no check, but he's threatening to take my bishop, and I can't give checks, I can't attack his king, I can't exchange the queens, and then I blundered again. I was in a hurry, I wanted to exchange pieces and go to an ending, but most of the times when we hurry, it's not a good idea. Better would have been to defend the bishop, to play queen g5, and then queen e6 check, king h7, and king h2, and we get a draw. It's an equal position. I have to admit that I can't do anything, but my opponent is also stuck. I don't know if my opponent would be able to win this, or I don't know. My computer says it's an equal position, so let's see. Okay, but after rook takes g6, it's horrible because my opponent took with the pawn, and then I made another blunder. I played rook queen g5. It's better to play queen h5, h4, and then in case of queen e6, I move my king, and then e6, a3, and white is better, but maybe I'll be able to draw this position, I don't know. Okay, but after queen g5, my opponent saw this horrible for me check, queen e6 check, and then I have to move the king, and then he played queen f5, queen f7, and it's game over. Yeah, it was nice, it was a nice game. I think I have learned a lot from it. Now it's mating 6 according to Stockfish. I couldn't do anything. There's no check, there's no perpetual, there's nothing I can do. I think I have learned a lot from this from this game, because we have not to hurry. Sometimes when you hurry, it's the worst thing you can do. I had some time. Yeah, as I said before, I spent 5 minutes thinking about that move, king g8, but I played king g8 because I didn't see bishop f6. So I think you can learn from other people's mistakes, and I hope you have learned something from this game as much as I did. I'm gonna try to think about these mistakes for the next games. Thank you.